All right.
45.
Looks like Tom Duncan.
Sounds like, must be a duck.
Jersey girls are the best.
Yeah.
What?
The bunny ears are back. Everybody, welcome back to another edition of Laugh Underneath the Podcast. And most of the time I get on these shows and I'm pretty excited, I'm pretty jacked, I'm pretty pumped like Josh Pitts. But today's a little different, guys, because we're talking to some of my friends, actually. These are some of my friends. These are not even strangers or stuff like that. You know, these are people that I've known. And part of the mortgage industry right now is going through a reshuffling of the deck. Let's say that, reshuffling of the deck. I think that's a good way to say that. And so people are not needed at the same capacity that they were at once. And we have people who have been shuffled along within the process and let go of their positions. And they were kind enough to come out here and talk to us about what's going on and how, you know, things that have impacted on our lives. Because look, I mean, this is tough sometimes. It's not always an easy transition. And so we'll just dive into it. This show, as you guys know, is not scripted at all. So we have Leora Ruzin on here. Leora, how you doing, buddy? We got
Hanging in there.
Floyd, and then we got Ask the Underwriter, Dani Hernandez herself. How you doing, Dani?
Hey guys.
So, guys, thank you once. I mean, I know that I've thanked you guys for all this already, but this is, I mean, you know, unprecedented episode for us. You know, by the way, Dani, I just realized something. When you were on the last time, it was unprecedented also because you and I were talking about the DACA that had just gotten overturned in the Supreme Court.
Yeah. I'm
So
always here for the unprecedented stuff. That's my favorite. That's where I exist.
Wow, I just connected the dots on that. Like the universe is aligned with you in unprecedented. That's
I know.
Cool. It's not bad, Dani. Keep it up.
No. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's bad. I roll with it.
Yeah. So look, I'm going to share something that I don't even know if my audience knows, but you know, we started the podcast. Leora, you were on at that time, January 2020 or February 2020. I can't remember which episode
February.
it was. Right?
Yeah.
And I was at another mortgage company. The pandemic had not hit yet, but the day in March that the country announced like stay at home, shelter at home, whatever that was called, I was let go that day. So the pandemic hits. You're supposed to shelter at home, and I get a call from the owner of the company saying, "Hey, we don't need you anymore."
Which was a total mistake a few months later.
Right, but at that time, they were just trying to do the best they could for themselves.
Yeah.
So I get the feeling. And by the way, I remember in 2020, I was like thinking to myself, in 26 years at that point, I think it was 26 or 27 years, I had never been let go of a position. Never. I was always been the one on the other side of that phone call.
Yeah.
And so it was so odd to hear this poor guy like mumble through it. He was so nervous. And I felt bad for him. I remember one time he was like retreating the conversation. And I was like, oh, no. We got to walk through this door together now. You've opened it. We're going to walk through it. Like I wasn't going to let him like renegotiate my compensation or something to keep me around. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm going to start off with Brandi. I mean, Brandi, how did you feel like when the call comes? Like, I mean, how does that moment occurs like that? I mean,
it was very overwhelming. For me, I was blindsided. You know, I thought I kind of had a handle on what was going on and the changes that we were making. Because, you know, over the previous 8 months, you know, we had a lot of shifts and a lot of org changes. And, you know, unfortunately, I was having to let a lot of people go, you know, or the team. And it was hard just because the decision was made at a level, you know, that it just didn't feel like it was brought about in the best way, I guess. Yeah.
Well, Leora, like when you were let go, I mean, Brandi brings up an interesting point, right? So I want to jump to you on this one. Is there a right way to let somebody go?
100%.
Leora.
No. I would, yeah. There's always a right way and a wrong way. We've all seen what happened when you do it the wrong way, right?
Okay.
The guy ended up on the news. It was really bad, and he was temporarily let go from his position. And you know, you thought that was going to be the end of the company because it brought along so much negative press. And then there's the right way to do it. But you always know when it's happening. You know the minute you turn, especially now with Zoom, right? So mine was I got a message early in the morning from the CEO of the company, and that was pretty normal for him not to give me notice when he wants to chat. He's like, have you got a few minutes? And I'm like, sure. And I hop on the Zoom call and I see him and the head of HR, and I knew at that exact moment what was going to happen.
Yeah, once you have that HR girl jump on, you know it's time.
It's never on the positive side of when HR is on the call, right? You're getting a promotion, or we're going to give you a raise, or we just wanted to tell you we love you. No, it's usually the negative side. So, of course, my stomach drops. For me, it was a week before Christmas. And,
oh, wow.
I was a week before Thanksgiving. So,
and like Brandi, I was completely blindsided because the fact of the matter was I was offered a promotion 2 weeks prior.
Oh, wow.
And then to go from that to getting let go, I was not expecting that. And then, of course, for me, I'd only been there for 3 months. So this wasn't the first time I was laid off this year or in 2022. So I was like, what am I? So, of course, immediately I went to my negative place. What am I doing wrong? I've been let go twice in the last 12 months. And I know that the market's really bad, but what is it with me? What is it about me that's causing this to happen?
Oh, wow.
It's not a good place to be in.
No, Dani, now you were talking prior, you were kind of like giving a heads up, like, hey, this is coming down the pike. So you, like the Brandi and Leora, you were not blindsided.
No, for me, I think it's a little bit different. When I joined Up Equity, there were 10 of us. We built it to 100. I think they're maybe down at 20 now. But being in the executive team, being in those meetings, I think it was 3 weeks before that, like we were looking at different options to stay, that we could go, what different directions. And one of the options that I brought up was like, you don't have to do this. Actually, you can scale down. You can I said, you can get rid of me if this is not the direction you're going. So, for me, it was, I'd known, and my COO and I we sit right next to each other. We have meetings every day, and we have a friendship. And so it was something that I'd known for a month. It was just kind of like, which state are we going to do this kind of thing? And so, yeah, for me, it wasn't.
Let me ask you, Dani, did it make you feel any better knowing it was coming? Like, these two got blindsided, but the feeling inside, is it the same or is it different?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Where is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? I don't know what the right way is. Like, obviously, it would be nice if you could tell a group of employees that are being laid off that ahead of time, a month ahead of time, right? But at that point, then you scare the rest of your employees that will be left over. Are we in a good place? Are we not? So I can understand from both points of view. I think for me, it was just personally, it made sense business wise. I didn't take it personally. So I'm great. I know that.
See, what I love about that though is that, you were given the option as a leader to say, we can save XYZ if I take XYZ or lose XYZ. Right.
Yeah.
And it's really troublesome right now, I think, for a lot of people in the mortgage industry is that these people are getting sliced and diced and then they're hiring the same thing.
That's
on the other side of the street, right? You're acquiring companies for millions and billions of dollars and onboarding 700-900 people at a time, but then you're letting go the people that have worked for you for 7 to 10 years and been loyal to your company's success. That's what the problem is. The problem is not the layoffs. Everybody that's been in mortgage for any amount of time knows that this is the way it goes, right? Any of us that have put in the blood, sweat, and tears know that there's ebbs and flows, but the problem with what's happening right now is that it's not even morally acceptable.
No,
what they're doing.
I think that's a thing that we had a lot of trouble with too, is just people being let go and then them, hiring business development people or sales. Because right now everybody wants salespeople. Obviously, it's like, well, you're letting go people, but you're still hiring. And so I think there's that disconnect, and it just, especially if they're hiring for the same position, like that feels like that's not
with the
yeah.
acquisition of the companies though, Brandi, I mean, you bring up a great point, right? Because there is a lot of M&A going on right now. So mergers and acquisitions are occurring. You know, I mean, I was looking at a few myself this past week, right?
Yeah.
So there's things happening right now that are causing growth, you know what I mean, for the sales side, but you do have to inherit a certain amount of operational, you know, HR sometimes something else in order to make
Marketing
it work.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So to your point, is it it's such a great question. I mean, it's such a great topic, right? I mean, you could do an entire episode on the morals of the mortgage industry,
100%.
which I would never do because we're the only industry that had to be told by Congress, here's a form called Truth in Lending.
Yeah, honestly.
I mean, so if you're an industry that has to be told by Congress about a form like that, I mean, you know, what are you signing up for? But I think in acquisition mode, like you just opened, is it fair then to acquire people to make space capital-wise by getting rid of the people that have been loyal to you? Because it's as the stockholders, which is the CEO, like if it's a one-man owner, he's a sole stockholder. If it's 12 of them, whatever, they're trying to benefit their ROI on the stock.
100%. But if you've got an entire docket full of open positions within the company, regardless of what they are, I don't care if it's a janitor, right? If you know you're getting ready to rock somebody's world, at least let them know of other opportunities within the company so that they're not.
That's fair.
If you have middle leadership, that's kind of between the decision making, but the one that has to make those terrible calls sometimes, why are you not asking the middle leadership what their opinion is on how to adjust that department's budget or whatever it is, right?
That's
nobody ever came to me and said, hey, like, what can we do to fix this number or to fix this problem? I would have gladly given up part of my salary to save part of the team, all of the team, or keep the team going with good leadership that was advocating for them all the time, right? But the option's not given to those people. I just don't feel like that's I just don't feel like it's good business because there are good leaders out there that genuinely
It's a great point, Brandi. It's a great point. Leora.
Well, I think you touched on something that is like the elephant in the room and nobody likes to talk about it, is maybe you just don't have good leadership.
That's exactly it.
And they're the ones making the decisions behind closed doors without care or concern for how it's going to affect the people at the bottom line. Because it's all about the bottom line, right? And so they're like, well, we could take pays and cut and pay. You know, we could just not take our bonuses this year if it means saving a few positions. We can repurpose some of these people. Some of them maybe, you know, they weren't a good fit and this was an opportunity for them to clean house. But a lot of people are good quality employees who weren't given an opportunity. And it starts at the top. It always starts at the top. So if you have poor leadership, and the same companies do it over. I was on another podcast yesterday and I said the exact same thing. When this business goes through its peaks and valleys, when you're in a valley, you know the companies that are going to lay off people. You know who they are because they all have the same kind of structure. They're mostly retail, and they get rid of the employees that they had just hired to get through, you know, the peaks. And so they're the first to get let go because that's all they care about is, you know, it's the human spackle dilemma.
Yeah. But Leora, let me ask you one thing real quick. I want to ask you something. You had mentioned that there is a right way to lay people off. So I want to come back to that and say, okay, what is the right way, Leora? You're the leader now of a company. You got 600 employees. You've got to dismantle 20% of your staff, right? What's the right way to do it?
The right way to do it is to still make sure that they have you guys seen Up in the Air?
Yeah.
The movie Up in the Air with Clooney
and that other lady, Anna Kendrick.
Yeah, Anna Kendrick. I liked how they have it set up. When they come in to lay people off, they give them like a packet of, we're going to give you services to help you find a new job. We're going to, you know, give you some kind of severance, whether it's we're going to pay you through the end of the month. we're going to pay your first few months of benefits. And so you can, it's taking care of those people during that gap that I think is really critical. For me, I got jacked. I got nothing. I was let go. And
no PTO payout.
No payout, no severance. I wasn't offered anything for my insurance, and I have medical like things where I need access to prescriptions and doctors. And so they're like, well, you have Cobra, and everybody knows Cobra is a racket.
Right.
It's so expensive. Nobody can afford it. And so here I am, I'm going to my local county asking for Medicaid. I'm asking for SNAP. I'm asking for food stamps because I have to take care of my family.
Right.
And I was denied because I made too much money the previous year. And so these employees, a lot of them are single moms or single parents. They have kids who need insurance and need access to healthcare. And when you get let go, that's the first place you go to. You're like, how am I going to take care of my family?
So the question comes back to this is then if what you're saying is leadership needs to kind of provide a bridge.
Yeah.
Right? Like feel like
now, if you're getting terminated because you did something wrong, that's one thing. But if you're part of a layoff or a downsizing,
for force reduction only. I mean, I'm not talking about any quality control or anything like that. So Dani, let me come back to you now. You were in a totally different position. You elected to take your because you and the CEO are talking about all this stuff, right? Did you, like to Leora's point, did you say, hey, by the way, I need X amount of things. I need my benefit package. You were able to negotiate that since you were already in talks?
Yeah. One of the things like that, it wasn't just me. Like the great thing, I will say, that the Up Equity, they did take care of employees. Like we'd done, this was like the third round of layoffs this year that, or in 2022 that had been done. And I think the first round of layoffs, if you were in the first or second round, I think you got like maybe 3 months of severance. And then also the difference too with Up Equity is that we're a startup and so we're VC funded. And so there's lots of different stuff around there, but they also gave people like another year to exercise equity options and stuff. The latest, because I think it's right, the more dire the circumstances get, the less benefits you get when you, as a severance package. So for this last round, they gave us 6 weeks of severance pay. I think benefits continued through the end of the month. I don't know. But it was. So they handled.
I ever saw was, I don't want to mention the company, right? Because I think they'll figure it out but I don't even give the year. But I saw these layoffs, and the guy kept on saying, "This is the last wave."
Yeah,
this is the last, and it was like 3 or 4 or 5 waves of layoffs, and it was like, dude, just stop saying this is the last time. Like, you've got the right number now. I mean, and it was so annoying because being part of sales, right? I mean, to a certain extent, if you bring in your own money, you eat what you hunt, right? Or what you kill, you're kind of insulated from being laid off. If the company doesn't shutter, like, when I was at Pacific Union, they shuttered the entire retail division, then you can do about that, right? Because they're selling to Mr. Cooper. But you normally don't get laid off. But what starts happening as a salesperson, your ops partners are now in jeopardy. And somebody saying this is the last wave of, and then they do it again, there's a real, I'm just telling, like a tension between
it's
sales. It's
incredibly demoralizing.
Yeah. So now I want to switch to Brandi here, because Brandi, your job was recruiting. That's not part of it. And I know you've got some other duties in there, but majority, and I've always known you as a recruiter, right? So FYI, right? You were on my recruiting episode.
Yeah.
Recruiters, right?
Yep.
Do you recruit people into this industry now?
No. I'm trying to get everybody to pivot away from it.
I mean, because I was trying
to figure out how to answer, because I have had a couple people come and they still want me to, just help them out with their mortgage resume, and I'm happy to do that. But every conversation is me trying to coach them out of it.
Really? Now is it just because you're just that like hurt or jaded, or
just because this time around, the people that I'm working with are very well experienced people. Like, like the ladies on this podcast, and mortgage companies are not going to pay them or value them what they're worth right now. They're just not going to. The very few that you're going to find that are, hiring for some of these roles, they don't want these good people. They want, $10 people, $10 an hour people, right?
Wow.
And the skills that we have all learned in the industry, no matter what role you've held, because you're always kind of a jack of all trades. If you're good at any part of it, you have to know everything about everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
These skills are completely transferable into so many other industries that these people can have more of a solid career moving forward and not have to worry about the market doing this for the back part of their career. So, yeah.
So let me ask you then, Brandi, how do you get companies who are in industry to take a chance on us? Because that's the problem I'm having. So I'm looking outside of the industry, and I've been in an executive positions for 7 or 8 years, and I have project management skills, product development, people development. I know how to do marketing. I can do budgeting. I can do anything that it's just plug in the industry, and then I think I would be good to go. But no one's willing to take a chance. So how do you get past that roadblock?
Well, so for me and my clients, I've been doing this, like Fabi said, for so long, 12 years, I think now. And so I'm 100% utilizing my network. When I work with somebody and we get them and they're ready to go and they're ready to make that pivot, it's just me utilizing the network to get their foot through the door to have a conversation.
How much does a resume factor in? Because you do resume like whatever whitewash resumes, right? Brainwash people on the I don't know what it is, right? But you work on resumes, right? How important is a good resume to get somebody to like to Leora's point to get you a chance? Because like I see a lot of resumes, right?
It is.
I don't know what exactly it is that makes me stop and say I want to talk to this person.
Yeah. The thing that people tend to forget about resumes is they think that the resume is going to get them the job. The resume needs to get you the interview, right? Mm-hmm. So somebody needs to be able to look at your resume and know who you are by looking at that piece of paper. And they are so interested in what you said that they want to hear more, right? That's the key. Mm-hmm. That's the trick, so to speak, to the resume.
So it's almost like you're missing a piece of the puzzle. And in order to get that piece of the puzzle, I got to talk to you.
Got to talk to them.
Holy cow. That's okay. So, you guys know I published a book, right? So I'm working on my second book right now, which is a fictional book. And part of writing a fictional book, so my second book, instead of doing nonfiction, I'm doing fiction, which is really challenging for me.
It's very challenging.
But guess what I found out in fiction? You have to leave pieces of the puzzles out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you're saying writing a resume is similar to writing a fictional book.
It's not fiction. You just got to give them enough to want to know the rest.
Wow. Dani, I saw your resume one time when I was going to hire you. I remember that when we were and I tried my best to hire you, but I think something happened on your certification. But I remember what got me on your resume was just your boldness in the resume. I remember like when I was reading the resume, you had this bold attitude that was like coming through on the resume. I'm like, I don't know who this lady is, but I want to talk to her.
Yeah, that's right.
So is that something normal, Brandi?
Yeah.
Like, you want your personality come out in the resume?
Absolutely. It's part of my intake form and it's part of the process. I mean, we go as far as making sure that your favorite color is part of your resume because it needs to be 100% you. So if it's attitude, if it's verbiage, like whatever it is, it's got to scream you, and we make sure that it's on there.
Okay. All right. So Leora, hopefully that gives you some tips there, right? I mean, maybe you and Brandi can connect after the show and talk offline.
You know what? My resume is 3 pages long, so I think because I have certifications, and I was in the military, and so I try to highlight all of that. But yeah, I could see how my resume isn't totally transferable outside of our industry because it is mortgage heavy, because that's what I've been doing for the last 16, 17 years.
Yeah.
So. And I know that some people create separate resumes for the roles that they're applying for. So yeah, maybe I need to dust it off. So we should talk.
Good. Yes.
Dani, talk about resumes. Have you been working on your resume? I think Dani's frozen. Oh my goodness, Dani froze. I was like, oh no, she froze. Oh well.
At least your hair is good.
Yeah, I mean the picture itself is pretty good.
That's a good way to be frozen. There's really bad ways to get frozen. So.
If you have to be frozen, that's a great way to be frozen.
Yes, it is.
We'll see if she comes back here. We'll give her a second or two. But so listen, Leora, now you said you're looking for outside the industry.
Yep.
So what does that mean? Does that mean that you basically say goodbye mortgages and never again?
I don't think I'll ever say goodbye to mortgages. So I'm trying a couple of different angles. So I'm also a writer, and I've written for Housing Wire, NMP. I was managing editor for Mortgage Women magazine for a few years, and then Christine Beckwith's magazines over at 2020. So I am looking to make that a more long-term thing, full-time thing. So I am taking on clients who need my writing expertise. So I'm trying to see if I can make that happen, even if I have to get another full-time job outside of the industry. This is how I'm going to keep those connections going, because I've worked a long time to cultivate my network. And I care about this industry. I mean, I got the CMB, I got the AMP. I volunteer my time because I care. I care about what this industry is supposed to be about, not what it currently is, but what it could be. And I don't want to give up on that. And so in some capacity, I will always be connected to mortgage. And I'm not saying that I'm not looking within the industry as well. I'm casting the net much wider.
Yeah. So I guess, Brandi, come back to you. I mean, you're trying to take people away from the industry.
I wouldn't say like trying to take them away. I'm just encouraging them to also cast their net farther.
Okay. All right. So Dani, we were talking about resumes when you froze. By the way, it was a great picture to freeze on.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So quick question. I mean, are you working on your resume? I mean, how does that, or you're like, you seem so relaxed, by the way, just for someone, you're very relaxed and chill.
I guess for me, I use LinkedIn really as my resume, like my LinkedIn profile. Most of it, I literally just have downloaded that into a resume, like PDF form now. But I think like you guys are saying, it's really hard to get who you are across on one piece of paper. And so for me, I think really what I've done is I obviously have a lot of content on my LinkedIn profile. Like I've done a lot of speaking at different events and stuff. So I think for me, it's just utilizing the network that I've built. And then, I found also that filling out most like online job applications, like they ask for your LinkedIn profile. And so I just throw that on there and let it go. It does
feel like the resume, Brandi, it does feel like the resume is something that's going by the wayside more and more. And I know you specialize in building resumes. So,
I think it depends on a lot of different things. Online applications do still have a spot to upload them. Everybody still needs one. I think it depends on the level of your career also, right? Like, Dani probably isn't going to need one as much as underwriters and processors are going to, right? Because that level of where you're at doesn't require it. I write them, but when I got laid off, I had to make my own because I haven't had one in 12 years. I've never needed it.
Right.
So I think I don't know that I would say that they're going away. I just think it depends on where you're at in your career and how important it is for what you're trying to reach.
Well, look, yesterday or this morning, the CPI came out. It was down 0.1%. So the annualized inflation is 6.5%, which means that the rates are going to start falling a little bit more and more.
Mm-hmm.
So if a mortgage company comes knocking at your door saying, hey, we need you to back and recruit this many people, Brandi, can you do it for us? I mean, what do you say?
I'm going to have to go a hard no.
Really? So if they come knocking, you're not taking that job anymore?
I'll do it on a contract basis.
Got it.
But
Okay.
I'm
Leora,
not,
what about
I'm
you?
not signing an employee anything anytime soon. Yeah.
What about you, Leora? I mean, you come back in the industry?
I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm jaded, but I'm really getting there.
Yeah.
I'm
It
really getting
hurt my
there.
soul. So I
It's really hard to give and give and give and to get nothing in return. It's hard, and I try not to get emotional about it because this is like a relationship for me, like toxic maybe, but it's a relationship. It's you invest all of this hoping that okay, this time it's going to be different. This is the company that is going to not only help me achieve my personal and professional goals, but will allow me to use my talents for the betterment of the organization. It's hard to find those kind of companies, especially in this industry. I really don't know. I think I'm going to have to do a lot more research and vetting before I say yes.
That's a great twist right there. Let me ask you a question. I mean, how much vetting are we doing? Look, I mean, I'll be very frank with you. Look, I just switched companies in November, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I had been vetting companies for about 9 months.
When you're laid off, it's a little bit different.
I get that, but I mean, before you accepted the position, did we vet enough? Did we do enough research as professionals? That's the question I'm getting at.
I would, it depends on your level of desperation.
Okay.
Honestly, I mean, if you've got money in the bank and you can chill for a few months and don't have to take the first job that comes your way, then you'll probably be more apt to do some deeper vetting, reach out to your connections, ask those kind of questions that you would ask a company, like what is your employee turnover? What does culture mean to you? Although I feel like culture is so overused right now.
Big time. It's a buzzword.
Whole other topic, whole other conversation.
Yeah.
How do you take care of your employees? What's the average length of tenure at your organization? Those are the questions we should be asking. And how were your last employee engagement surveys? But when you're desperate and you're like, I need a job before I lose my house, you're like, okay, I'll take this job, and then maybe something better will come down the road.
You know what I really don't like about our... Yeah, go ahead, Dani. Come on.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think with like Brandi's company, right? Movement is supposed to be known as like the do-gooder of fucking everything. So, sorry, I cussed. This will probably be the first time. It'll probably be like 5 more, but I'll try not to.
It's okay.
My last presentation.
You're not the first one. You're not the first one.
My last presentation at Next Mortgage Events, I was with Kim Hoffman and Danielle Bigali, and we were up on stage, and Susie Lindblom was like, I give her 5. I'm betting 5. She's going to have 5 F-bombs at least in this thing. And it was 5 on the dot. But
she should have set the bar higher. She should have said 10.
I know. I was told them in the beginning, I probably will say the F-bomb. I don't mean it in a bad way. Yeah. I just use it when I'm like crashing about something. But,
what were you going to say?
Like movement.
Yes.
Movement was supposed to be, like the do-gooder family, cheery. We're the best people in the world. We've got
it's more than mortgage company. It's movement. I got it. That was exactly right.
Yeah. And so for them to do, to do a layoff in this way, where we're not offering you a compensation severance package. We're not like that. How do you vet for that when it's when you go into a company like that where you think, oh well, they portray this like image on the outside that we're the best, we love everybody, we're spreading all this goodness, like how do you vet that it looks good?
Great point.
And there's so many mortgage companies out there that hide behind their culture. On the surface, they seem like the best companies to work for, and you get that FOMO, that fear of missing out. Oh, I want to work at that company so bad because they look like they're all having fun and they're all happy, but it's all a front, and it's really sad.
There's good work being done, right? But it just means that there is a very large disconnect between the group of people that are running the good and the group of people that are running the business, right? And so if you're going to have 2 separate people running these groups, you need to make sure that they're at least on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, look, I
Sure.
mean, you brought the name Movement, so let's dig into it because I mean, I have a lot of friends at Movement. Brandi, you know that. I mean,
I do
and,
too.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and I love them dearly because they're
Same.
really good people.
Yep.
But I think sometimes when we do let our culture or our brand, I think it's brand, Dani, that I'm really feeling right now.
Yeah.
When we let the brand kind of represent who we want to be and are striving to be that person or that brand, we may fall short of it. And I know Movement has fallen short several times, not just one time, several times. And it's not a great feeling, even as an onlooker, when you hear these stories from your friends like Brandi and other people who've called me in the past and say, you're not gonna believe what just happened. You're like, oh, over there at that campus? How that happened? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I just thought they would just all take reductions of pay and make sure that everybody gets to eat the same loaf of bread. And,
Yeah.
and that's not what happened. You know what I mean? So
At the
ultimately,
very least, let the people who have been loyal to the company be the ones that get to continue to work.
but I think ultimately it's a business, right? I mean, and look, in my role, right, as divisional president, it's a business. And something I always try to tell the people that have been around me is as long as we put up numbers, we're fine.
Mhm.
Hey, we don't put up numbers, they're going to be looking for somebody else.
Yeah, but when you're putting up the numbers and then it still happens.
That's a very interesting, you know what I mean? So I mean, when you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing and you still get that, you know what I mean? And that happened to me at Pacific Union.
Right.
So FYI, I mean, Pacific Union sold to Mr. Cooper. They didn't want the retail channel. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, what do you do at that moment? You know what I mean? You're given like 2 weeks to figure your life out. So this is the business, and it's unfortunate. So let's go back to the CPI number because everyone is cheering this today, right? Like this is like even one of my realtors called me last night and said, "I hear the rates are going to drop tomorrow because the CPI is going to get lower." And I'm like, I don't know, but with the lower rates, a couple of years ago when we were at 2.5%, 3% rate, right? And I was hearing underwriters asking for $160,000 a year,
Yeah.
right? Or they wouldn't even talk to me. In the back of
Yeah.
my head, I was thinking, you guys understand it's just a matter of time before that money is taken away.
Mhm.
And they would say
Yeah.
to me, yeah, I know, Fab, but I want to save it and I'm going to do the best I can up until it's taken away from me. So is that
Yeah.
the boomerang from 2020 coming back and slicing off people's today that they can't catch anymore? Anybody want to answer that question?
I think that when you're doing, I think like when, as a business, right? If like, because as a company, you're going to pay, not like this sounds bad, but I think that's just the reality of it is that you're going to pay as little as you can. You don't, but so as an employee, when you're needed and also knowing that this industry goes through these cycles like this, it is I think just get it while you can. I
So
don't know.
then is it bad for the owners to get it while they can and then they got to protect their asset when they have to? I mean, forget how they do it. I'm not going to go down that road. I think Brandi and Leora are 100% correct. But is it not fair for the owners to protect their interest by laying people off then?
Absolutely. Like again, the problem is not the layoffs, right? We all know that it happens. The problem is, we've really lost touch with making sure that we're being kind people.
Okay. This is
Yeah,
this is
I
definitely
mentioned
down
that.
the road that I didn't see this episode going down, by the way. That's why I love these shows that are not scripted like this. You know what I mean?
What did you have in mind? Because I'm curious.
No. I mean, I always walk into these shows and I always have like this, like, okay, I'm going to have 3 buddies on. We're going to talk about them being laid off. I want to go to the feeling, the day, you know what I mean? But that's really what I was really focused on, like that moment that it happened, right? Because it happened to me, right? When there wasn't mass layoffs. So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
we're going down a road here where we're actually saying, guys, it's okay to lay me off, but do it in a right way.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when I was on my podcast yesterday, I said the same thing. It's just getting back to being kind to people. And what frustrates me the most about this business is we know that the peaks and valleys are there, the ebbs and flows are there. So how do we solve for that without hurting people? We have all this technology, we have AI, we have machine learning, we have all of the, like every time you turn around, another fintech is coming out promising the moon, the stars, we're going to automate as much as we can, but not taking the human element out of the mortgage process. And yet we still haven't figured out a way to do that. So I really feel that that's, for me, that's at the center. If you can find a way to solve, to be able to handle the peaks and valleys without throwing human spackle onto the problem, we will always have this problem.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
What do you like? I think, like with the kind side of stuff, right? Like I felt horrible, like for the people that were let go, and so like I had a and it was right before Christmas, so I threw a Christmas party for all of them at the house, right? Like as a like for everyone, just because I wanted them to be able. Nobody really got to say goodbye, any of that stuff. And I think that it's important that like everybody talks about a company culture and that kind of thing, but I think that it's really rare that where you find like leadership or people or company that cares and is kind and does do the right thing. Because I think, especially, I don't know, privately held mortgage companies are slightly different, but like at a startup or at what, we've got shareholders, it's really about the bottom line. Especially at Up Equity, we've never been profitable. We're burning, but we're expected to have a burn rate of of certain percentage. But at the same time, I think with the technology that is being developed, a lot of it is shit, to be quite honest. Like there are so many.
At least you didn't drop the F-bomb that time. Thank you.
I know, sorry. Yeah, I got better. I improved. A lot of them are just horrible. Like they just promise crap, and nobody. And this is one of the things that I'm super passionate about and like doing is people build these tech stacks, and a lot of them don't work together. Like they don't integrate together, so it makes everyone's job harder. But at the end of the day, there are some tech stacks I think out there where I don't necessarily think you need the number of people that are employed in this industry. Once you solve tech problems and you can automate things, like I think that's one of the things that's unfortunate and a little bit dangerous is you probably need half the people in this industry that are employed now in real, like depending on how good your tech is and if you can automate your workflow on the front end with using tech and then redesign your workflow on the back end, even salespeople, Fabi. I want a DIY mortgage, but I'm just saying, like, so you have to be careful what you wish for.
No, I mean, the technology thing is live and in here. I mean, if people don't understand, I mean, what's going on with the technology, whether it works or not works, right? The portions that are working are replacing the workforce,
which is great, fine, awesome, cool. But if you've got a team of people over here that are doing all that and implementing all these things, right, and they're planning to roll this whole massive change out, okay, you have one small group of people that know everything, and there's zero transparency to everybody else that's boots on the ground. So there's going to be this new rollout and all this amazing stuff, but oh hey, by the way, we're getting rid of you because we're doing this. Like
no, not completely important. I think.
Right? Like, have the conversation with your people. Let them know, hey, we're looking at possibly doing XYZ. We would love to roll out XYZ. The downfall is it could potentially eliminate this group of people.
I think you brought up such a great point in the beginning of the show that it needs to be reemphasized. If you have a large enough company where you're looking for open positions, I think the people that are being laid off should be given first choice to fill those vacancies.
Every single time.
I mean, that's such a logical, I mean, it's like, okay, here's A, and then here's B, here's C. I mean, just follow that, and literally, it's a no-brainer. Now, if you say no, I'm going to go elsewhere, I'll take my chances. That's your choice then.
Right.
But as a leader, I make options available.
Yeah, if you're implementing new tech and it might eliminate a few positions, you should still give those positions, those people, the people, not the position, people, the opportunity to stay with the company. And if because a lot of the bigger tech rollouts take months to implement and to test and to go live. So you have months to help prepare these potential employees who are going to get displaced. So you give them that time, like, oh, you're in underwriting and we're going to use some kind of automated underwriting and we're going to be able to reduce the number of underwriters we have. Are you interested in secondary marketing? Are you interested in post-closing? because a lot of underwriters can fill a lot of different awesome roles because they know the guidelines, they know what makes the mortgage. And so it's not like, oh, by the way, you're going to get let go because we didn't know this tech was coming from us. I mean, again, it goes back to leadership, and it goes back to communication.
Yep. Every single time. The transparency around communication.
Basic stuff.
You guys, we are at the end of our show here, but I think we ended up on a positive note. I like it. I like the fact that we're ending on something like this, for me at least. Like, as a leader, I'm walking away learning something, you know what I mean? And I love that I'm learning something from you guys today. It's a trying time for a lot of us in this industry, and we'll get through this one day at a time, I imagine. Dani, Leora, Brandi, thank you for coming out here, and let's get this show over with, okay?
Thanks, guys.
45.
It looks like Tom Duncan.
Sounds like, must be a duck.
Jersey girls are the best. What?
The bunny ears are back.